Fox News alert, we are awaiting President-elect Donald Trump's very first public speech since his stunning Election Day victory. This is Outnumbered. I'm Meghan McCain, and here today, Sandra Smith, co-host of After the Bell on Fox Business, Melissa Francis, Democratic strategist Julie Rodzinski, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, the executive producer of Imus in the Morning, Bernard McGurk. And sir, you are outnumbered.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be outnumbered. And by the way, happy Friday Eve.
Happy Friday Eve.
It's a great day. First day of November. The holiday season is in full swing right here. The Christmas tree got lit last night. I'm a happy guy to be sitting here with you ladies.
Wow, you're pumped up. I like it.
Up, baby.
Awesome. I'm loving it.
Come on, this is a great day. And with the news that's following later on, this is fantastic. I love the whole thing.
Wow. All right. Let's get this thing started.
What is he drinking?
President-elect Donald Trump is on his way to Indianapolis. There you see his plane and Mr. Pence's plane. Both men are heading out to visit Carrier's factory and announce a deal to keep 1,000 jobs in Indiana. It's an agreement that allows Mr. Trump to deliver on one of his biggest campaign promises before even taking office. After his speech, he'll head to Cincinnati, Ohio to kick off his thank you tour. It's all to honor his supporters in states that helped him win. You know, Bernie, I'm going to go to you first. There's a little bit of controversy about this thank you tour. I actually thought a lot about it. I'm a fan of it. I compared it to Howard Stern thanking his affiliates when he became #1 in each market. What do you think of him going on this victory tour?
I think it's fantastic. It shows that he wants to give back. I mean, it's unprecedented, first of all. It's fantastic. Look, if Hillary had won, she'd be on a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean with the elites, with Beyonce and Jay-Z or whatever. This shows that he's in touch with the common man. Look, a week ago, this campaign right now is swimming. It's at a peak. A week ago, it was in disarray. There were people by a bunch of Nazis. Everybody was talking about that stuff. And now he's putting people back to work. He's only the president-elect. He's putting people back to work. He's thanking the people. I think it's a great time. And all these naysayers talking about, well, let's wait and read the fine print and all that stuff. Just relax. Real people are actually getting jobs back. We should be happy, at least for a day.
Melissa, I want to go to you on this Carrier deal. He saved 1,000 jobs out of 2,100 jobs that were originally going to go to Mexico. Right. What do you make of this deal?
I do think it's genius. Of course, he used a combination of carrots and sticks, right? They were going to pull back some of the tax incentives that that company was getting to be in that state, and they put pressure on the parent company, United Technologies, who makes jet engines. They sell missiles to the government, all kinds of things. They said, wait a second, we do a lot of business with you. We do not want you taking these jobs overseas. I'm sorry, down to Mexico. At the same time, I don't like inefficiency in the economy, so they have to make it work economically. He can do that by lowering the tax burden, lowering the regulation. Transportation, they spend less on that because they're closer to where the goods will finally go. You've got to make it make economic sense, because if it doesn't, then the products are just more expensive. That doesn't help anyone. But he's smart enough to go through and make the deals work, and he can replicate it. I think the Obama administration was too stupid and lazy, yes, I said it, to get out there and make more deals like this.
On that note, in Steve Mnuchin's words, he said the president-elect and the vice president-elect picked up the phone and called the CEO of United Technologies and told them we want to keep jobs here. Can't remember the last time a president did that. This is part of his thank you tour. He said jobs, jobs, jobs. This is what he campaigned on. He's picking up the phone and guess what? Calling American businesses, the CEO of major corporations in this country, and asking what do we need to do to keep those jobs there. Listen, he's following through. He said he was going to put killers in place. So far, he's putting Steve Mnuchin. He just put Wilbur Ross at the helm as Commerce Secretary. As a compliment, he meant killers, as we always remind everybody, to do this, to keep these jobs here. So amazing to see him already doing this in, what, week 4 as President-elect Trump?
The question I want to ask both of you, because you're obviously financial experts, they get $7 million in tax breaks, the Carrier systems. Is that normal? Is that
I have no
criticism of this.
I have no problem with tax incentives because you're letting a company keep the money that it's making. I think anytime we hand money over to the government, they waste and abuse it. So I don't like revenue going to the government. They're keeping more of what they have. They were going to take away those incentives if they moved the job away. So to me, I don't have a problem with it, but I know that there's a lot of criticism out there.
Julie, this is obviously Mike Pence's home state. I'm sure this had played a factor into this.
Sure.
What do you make of all of this?
Well, first of all, it did because of the fact that Indiana is giving them the incentive. So Mike Pence happens to be the governor of Indiana. But look, It's 7 million in tax breaks, as you pointed out. 800 jobs stay, which is wonderful for those 800 people. 1,300 are still moving to Mexico. So it's not that he's keeping all the jobs here. But to me, what's fascinating about this is I'm not sure that there's a commitment from Carrier after they get these incentives to actually stay. And I've seen this happen a lot on the state level, where you get tax incentives on the state level to stay. The companies accept the incentive and then move. And so, to me, the follow-up and the devil's in the details
Julie,
here.
only if it's not economically beneficial for them to not stay here.
But my point is, it's always going to be cheaper for them to move to Mexico. And in fact, that's what the head of Carrier, that's what the CEO of Carrier said. He still believes in free trade. They're still moving 1,300 jobs to Mexico. So they obviously believe that it's still in their economic interest to move a great chunk of these jobs to Mexico. These 800 jobs eventually could also go to Mexico after they collect these tax incentives. So to me, the question is, what's the commitment to keep these jobs here permanently? And secondly, for all the Republicans, the conservatives out there, and I know there's a huge split between the populists and old-fashioned conservatives, you are picking winners and losers here, because if you're a company now, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to threaten to move offshore tomorrow if you don't give me the same kind of incentives.
What you're saying, but we kind of agree in a way, because what you're saying is that over time it has to make economic sense.
Sure.
They can't just strong-arm them into keeping them here. It has to be economically beneficial, and Trump achieves that by making the regulatory burden lower, the tax burden
and
lower.
Improving the overall economy in America.
But you're telling me
be more productive here. I mean, a worker here is worth more than a Mexican worker with less training. I mean, it's got to, in order for them to keep the promise and to really stay, you're right, in the long run, it does have to make economic sense. We have to make this economy stronger and more receptive to companies.
The part that I hope I'm wrong about, but I think a lot of conservatives would agree with me on, is it will be cheaper ultimately to use foreign labor. It just is. You have to pay them less. You don't have
know
the same
that,
protections
you
here.
also have to pay for the energy and the transportation and all the other stuff.
As a result, as you said, it must make economic sense. But to me, I'm not so sure that it does in the long term. And I hope that people understand that when he talks about bringing back manufacturing, this is going to be hard to do long term.
This conversation is not going to end. We're going to keep talking about this throughout the week and as this keeps on happening. And of course, keep it right here in the 2 p.m. Eastern hour. We will take you live to Indianapolis after the president-elect tours the Carrier plant. He will speak publicly for the first time since the election. And tonight at 7 Eastern, we will bring you the first rally of Mr. Trump's thank you tour. But that's not all. Tonight, Mr. Trump joins our own Sean Hannity. You can see that at 10 Eastern, all here on FNC.
All right, and as we wait for Donald Trump to board that plane you're looking at right there, heading to the Carrier factory, the jockeying for the Secretary of State position in the Trump administration is ramping up. The transition team confirming it's down to 4 finalists. A source tells us they are 2012 Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former CIA Director David Petraeus, and Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Corker. But now that same source says former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, may be added to the list. He met with VP-elect Mike Pence yesterday and is meeting with Mr. Trump tomorrow. The source explaining the list remains fluid and the number of finalists could go down or up. Another source telling Fox News Ambassador Bolton is also being looked at for the number 2 position at state. Congressman Chris Collins, who is on the transition team, weighed in earlier today.
If you walk the halls of Congress, you would think every Republican here was a strong Trump supporter from day one. They are certainly on the Trump train now. They have seen these picks for some of the key cabinet posts and others. They are thrilled to see the direction, the team, as I had said from day one. You're going to see a cabinet the likes of which we've never seen before, because Donald Trump isn't coming in with the entourage that you might normally see.
All right. And by the way, we are keeping an eye on Donald Trump's plane to be departing to Indianapolis. We will hear from him for the first time publicly since his election, since his victory, I should say. And there you see it moving on his way to Indianapolis, where he will also be announcing that new deal at Carrier, what has taken place and how many jobs he says he has saved. All right. So let's first talk about Secretary of State as Trump's plane departs. Bernard McGurk.
Let me just say,
who will it be?
Bon voyage, Mr. Trump.
Okay.
Now, listen, who will it be? Look, loyalty matters, but the fact that Trump met with Mitt Romney just shows that he's not the thin-skinned person everybody said he was, and he's going to put party unity first, et cetera, and all that's very good. But I also think substance matters. I think as far as Secretary of State, I mean, Trump campaigned on, we learned the lesson of the Iraq War. That should be the litmus test for each of these. Have you learned the lesson of the Iraq War? Do you think it was a mistake? If you say no, you're disqualified. And or the whole regime change thing, you leave the dictators in place. And, Bashir Assad, if he's helping us kill ISIS, keep him there. Those types of questions should be asked and answered, as opposed to, in addition to this loyalty stuff and who did what for Trump during the campaign.
There has been some criticism, and Megyn, you've sort of been one of the people saying it's time. He needs to make a decision here. He's drawing this out too long. I mean, to say now that there's 4 finalists, possibly 5, possibly more, possibly less, it's time.
I'm a terribly impatient person as well. And I also think these are all great people. I actually think the new inclusion of Ambassador Bolton is fantastic. I'm very well aligned with him when it comes to foreign policy. That being said, he's very hawkish. I mean, he's advocated for bombing Iran. That isn't exactly what Donald Trump has run on. And I think the question is, especially for people like Julie and I, who have a great skepticism of Vladimir Putin, is what the role the Secretary of State will play in Donald Trump's relationship with Russia and his sort of semi-cozy relationship with Vladimir Putin. And all of these people on this list really fall into line with people that are more hawkish like me.
What about General Petraeus? How would he?
He would have been great, except General Petraeus, and this is not, it's just a fact. I'm actually not trying to be dismissive, but has to get permission from his parole officer to leave the state of North Carolina.
Come on.
So,
Yes,
that's the problem with General Petraeus. You can't fly around the world doing diplomacy if you have to get permission from your parole officer.
We almost had a president like that.
And I see, okay. And I see, except we didn't. And I see, and otherwise I think he'd be great, but that is a problem, and I think that probably prevents you from becoming, unless he gets a pardon from this president, he could potentially get a pardon from his boss, the president of the States.
All right, and then there was 2. We were looking at the Giuliani Mitt Romney matchup.
So here's the thing. If you don't want regime change, Bernie, then you don't want Rudy Giuliani, because he worked for a group in Iran that wants regime change.
Definitely don't want John Bolton.
To me, John Bolton certainly for regime change. To me, and I said this the other day, I've reached the stage of grief where I'm starting to bargain. And so to me, I'm bargaining for for Mitt Romney, which 4 years ago I would have laughed at myself for saying, for the same reason that Megyn just pointed out. I have a tremendous amount of skepticism towards Vladimir Putin. And I think the smartest thing that Mitt Romney said 4 years ago was that he thought that Russia was the largest geopolitical threat facing our country. And to me, somebody like Rudy Giuliani, who's cozy with the Russians to some extent, the Trump family, who seems to be cozy with the Russians, that is a huge red flag to me. At least Mitt Romney would hopefully keep them in check. People like John McCain, people like Lindsey Graham, I'm counting on them on the Republican side to keep it real about the threat that Vladimir Putin.
It's interesting his choices are so hawkish, though. It is not what I would have expected at all, given what he ran on. And, I wouldn't call him an isolationist, but he's certainly not at the level that Ambassador Bolton and General Petraeus
What about Bob Corker?
I don't know that we know what his policies really are. I mean, I'm with you. I think we've gone one too many commercial breaks in this reality show without coming to a conclusion. Like, I'm so over it at this point. But I think Mitt Romney makes the perfect good cop, bad cop with Donald Trump, where he can go in and be like, dude, I know he's crazy. Trust me. I think he's a lunatic, but he will bomb you if you don't do what he wants. Like, they could definitely play off each other in an interesting way.
All right. We are watching the movement at LaGuardia as the president-elect heads off to Indianapolis. The so-called Trump bump, it continues as a new survey finds Americans' confidence in the economy soaring since the election. Does the president-elect deserve all the credit for this? And how long will the optimism actually last? Plus, First Amendment activists launching a flag-burning challenge after the president-elect says people who set U.S. flags on fire should be punished. But is this the right way to get their message across? And don't forget, after the show, you can join our live chat by clicking the Overtime tab at foxnews.com/outnumbered, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/outnumberedfnc. And of course, you can tweet us all throughout the show, and after, we'll look at it. Join us.